And tricking your customers and all that kind of stuff isn't the way to go. That's kind of a manipulative tactic. And ultimately, AI and the chatbots and everything aren't there yet to be able to resonate with your target audience, to have a cohesive conversation and ultimately get the lead to where you want them to go, because that human touch isn't there. What the lead is expecting or that person is expecting is totally something different. And when you trick them and then they realize that it's not a person, you've lost them and it's not ethical, right?
Welcome to the Unfair Advantage podcast, presented by AImarketingtools.com and hosted by Justin Day. The Unfair Advantage podcast brings clarity to AI for small business owners and entrepreneurs. Using our no-nonsense approach helps you understand how to take AI and make it the MVP for your business.
And welcome back to another episode of The Unfair Advantage, where we break down the complicated mess that is out there for AI and make it as simple for anybody to understand and actually take action with it to make an impact on your business. Today, we are going to be talking about the ethical nature of AI, why it matters, what you should keep your eye on, and where it's going. There's a lot that we can cover, so let's dive right in. So when we think about AI, a lot of people aren't necessarily thinking about the ethical side, or even like we're looking at Elon and some of the people that are seeing things behind the scenes and have their hands more ingrained in it, understand the ethics and where it could go and what it could do. So, I think it's important for everybody that's leveraging AI or even not leveraging AI to understand the importance of ethical decisions and practices used with AI, whether that be on the client side, yourself, or otherwise. Having that in the conversation so we can understand that we're not running into that iRobot situation in the future, but rather setting ourselves up for a potential utopia and success. That's where the ethics kind of come in and harness this power and keep it in a safe space for us all. I think there's a lot of applications from in a marketing agency side, from a business side, and everything in between. With the emergence of AI, and now that it's being applied to things like chatbot to book calls or kind of reach out to your customers or respond to reviews automatically or use these automations, right? I think a lot of younger entrepreneurs or just people that are getting started are looking at using it to not necessarily trick customers or leads, but make it seem like it's you and really try and take your body out and put it out and you put your brain online. And tricking your customers and all that kind of stuff isn't the way to go. That's kind of a manipulative tactic. And ultimately, AI and the chatbots and everything aren't there yet to be able to resonate with your target audience, to have a cohesive conversation and ultimately get the lead to where you want them to go, because that human touch isn't there. And that's on an ethical standpoint that, we really kind of are hard pressed about to understand and leverage that. We always, when we were using AI customer facing, we always let people know. So for call booking, what we do is say, hey, this is Justin's AI bot. I'd love to book a 10-minute call with you. That way people automatically understand who they're talking to, what they're talking to, and they don't have to get into these long conversations that definitely get away from you after a few messages. So it's being at the forefront and honest. And if you don't do that, people will pick up now. Like, people are starting to get an understanding of what keywords are associated and what that sounds like. So ultimately, you're kind of digging a hole for yourself. But I think if you let people know that you're using it, let them know when it's being used and how it's used, that actually gains more trust and intrigue and interest. So use that as a power to be honest, forefront, and ethical with it, and not something that you're trying to just kind of manipulate and try and skip ahead and use these tools in ways that they aren't meant for. So I think really honing in on not overcomplicating it, using it as intended, and being honest, you're going to be off to the races. Integrating AI into our clients and our companies, we've been able to see what it looks like before you ethically use it and after. Now, when I say before we ethically use it and after, not that we've egregiously gone after it and used AI into manipulating people, but we have, during the beginning stages, leveraged it in a way where we thought that, okay, we can train our bots with all these intents and go through these workflows and go through all of these trainings and FAQs, and we've got this amazing bot that's all trained, and we're ready to just let it rip and go on autopilot. And then when we go review their conversations, the back and forth, it gets away. It just does, because AI is not there yet on the chatbot side. And the thinking behind it is like we know that we can brain dump ourselves and put the characteristics in custom workflows in place to kind of mimic those conversations. But ultimately, it's, again, not there yet. And it is really on the ethical side, people get upset because when the bot responds, it continues to badger people or respond with something ridiculous. So when you're doing that, you're losing trust, and we've definitely moved away from that. Where we've leveraged it in the health sector to generate leads for doctors' offices, specifically for patients or for customers that need ACA or Medicare, Medicaid, all that kind of good stuff. What we've done is gone ahead and we let people know that this is a chat bot and we're here to help. Let's book a call so we can get you online with an expert or immediately get you hooked up with the right person. I think ethically that's the best way to do it, and people appreciate that, because we've seen that flip side where people get upset and we see all the crazy responses from some of these people, and rightfully so. I mean, just imagine, I think what resonates with me coming as a 90s kid, when I'd get a telemarketer call, it'd be over after night and it'd have a long day. And I remember sometimes my dad would answer, be like, get the fuck out of here. Why are you calling me at this late at night? And it's the same kind of thing. Same kind of practice, like what the lead is expecting or that person is expecting is totally something different. And when you trick them and then they realize that it's not a person, you've lost them and it's not ethical, right? But when you tell somebody that this is a bot, we're forefront, and then you get on the call with them, they appreciate that because you've let them know what this is, what process we're going through, and that, hey, we've got your back and these are the tools that we're using to make sure that we can get you to the right place. And that makes a huge difference in building trust and authority and ultimately breaking down barriers and objections. So leading with that is always a winner. So when we back up here and look at the 10,000 foot view, there's a bigger picture and a really strong presence of concern on an ethical side that we need to be aware of, cognizant of, and working towards, so that we're not just letting this powerful tool impact our lives in a negative way. The biggest way that I see, that is an issue and currently is and needs to be, talked about more is, how are we leveraging AI from a data perspective? Because AI is able to read data at a massive rate. I think now they're starting to play with that at a quantum level, which is just going to be insane. When we pair a massive powerhouse of data comprehension and analysis to do predictive things, that what's already doing, right? That's what ChatGPT and all these other models are, is predictive things. We're pairing that and understanding humans at a very deep level. There can be some sinister stuff that comes out of that. Not necessarily we're talking about the deep dark web and all that kind of good stuff. We're talking about the scary stuff is like the predictive, like this feels like they're in my brain listening to you. We can't confirm that, but it probably is. I don't know. That's the kind of predictive stuff that AI is doing. And it's leveraging the AI in a way to mass market kind of in a weird way, in a manipulative way that's just not genuine and unethical, because at some degree, AI is going to have so much data on us, which it already does, that imagine a data leak, that just happened this last weekend with AT&T. Imagine all of these things getting paired together, and some mastermind that's a villain, right, from a James Bond movie is just sitting behind a screen, just like, oh, I can't wait. I know everything about everyone. And ultimately, it's the Skynet kind of concern. And I think these movies and these thoughts are put out there because they are an actual real concern, and not applying ethics, or at least having some checks and balances, unleashes that potential, which is terrifying for everyone. And I think, without an ethical committee, without an ethical oversight on how it's being used and how we are providing that insight and providing these tools, that it can get away from us. And it's becoming more and more alive, right? The AGI side of it is coming out, where sooner than later, we're going to have AI talk to AI and AI run the kind of internal things that we're kind of manually doing now. So the next steps are going to be a little bit more scary, because it's going to have a lot more power. You have more power, more data, more computing power, all that kind of good stuff. It's going to enable such an amount of data that's being processed that can be scary. So I think really making sure that there's a committee and an understanding and processes and balances like the FDA or something like that, where they come in, and obviously that's going to put a stop to a lot of stuff and progress. And it is going to put some things on the background, in the back burner, and it's going to limit some advancements, but rightfully so. If we don't do that, then what's going to come out of it? I mean, the sky is the limit. So the checks and balances are completely needed across the board. Another concern that we should all be aware of is the racial bias and understanding that there is some ethics on that side that, if left unchecked, could alter ultimately history. If we think about it from a really broad perspective, and over time, if we don't have this in check, right? When ChatGPT recently ran, or a user ran a test over thousands of entries for resumes, they stripped out all of the racial profiling and all that kind of stuff so that it could be unanimously tied to what the person was, who they were, and what the resume was about based on skill versus race. And ultimately what the return was that the bot was choosing more of the Caucasian sounding names than otherwise. So that's a prime example of how we need to keep that in check and understand the brain of AI and why it's doing that. I think the why is very important, understanding that, reverse engineering it and making it better, because I think right now we are still the forefront, right? And that is going to require some weird transitions and some, kind of painful things that may be out there that we're talking about as a community and as a people, but these are things that need to be addressed, because again, if that is to persist, how that could impact looking back at history or looking back at things that are in the future, or facts can be really turned around into different ways that aren't factual, because a lot more people are obviously using these tools. And if we're already in a culture where we're taking fact based on headlines or scrolling through TikTok, whatever that looks like, so now you pair that in with ChatGPT that doesn't necessarily recite all of the resources, where it came from, what it's doing, and why, those become facts that become misconstrued. And in our culture, that can pop off really quick. That can be a blaze, and that can be something that really disrupts a lot of people in a very harmful way. And so on the ethics side, we really have to understand how this is working as the brain, so that we can move away from that and learn how to make sure that it's all in check. That's going to wrap it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Go ahead and do me a favor and smash that subscribe button, and do me a favor and comment below. What do you think about the ethics here? It's important that we bring this up and not ignore it. So while it's a sensitive subject, totally understandable, it is a subject that needs to be talked about and brought to light. Thank you for listening. Make sure to head over to aimarketingtools.com for your weekly dose of AI marketing tools that actually work and how to use them, where we simplify everything from A to Z to scale your business at the speed of light.